You ever notice how people love to joke about who you used to be, even when you've clearly outgrown that version of yourself? Like you've evolved, your mindset has changed, your standards have changed, but somehow they keep bringing up the old you, the version of you that tolerated more, that accepted less, that maybe didn't know better yet. And they'll say it like it's harmless, like it's just a joke, like it's not that deep, but something about it doesn't sit right with you. Yeah, that's because it's not just a joke. People love hiding truth behind jokes because it gives them plausible deniability, which means when someone says or does something with a hidden meaning, but phrases it in a way where they can deny it if you call it out. And if you don't learn how to recognize what's really being said, you'll miss the subtle ways people try to keep you in a version of yourself you've already outgrown. And we don't do that. Not over here. Because the reality is, you don't want those kinds of comments slowly sabotaging the progress you've made. So, in this video, we are going to break down why people do this, what it really means when someone keeps bringing up your past like that, and how to check them the dark feminine way. So, why do people freeze you in your old identity? Well, there's multiple reasons for this type of behavior. This behavior is usually rooted in social hierarchy, status regulation, jealousy, envy, even, and people's own unresolved triggers being activated by your growth. So, firstly, people subconsciously track who's above them and who's below them. When you elevate, it disrupts their internal ranking. And oftentimes, we've caught ourselves doing this in life. I mean, the difference between us and people like that is that we are self aware ladies. So when you're super self aware, you can, you understand that when you have a thought or a feeling, that you are not that thought or feeling. So you have the emotional intelligence to detach yourself and reassess, do the inner work that's needed. That way you're not reacting and endlessly triggered by people. And that can be very lonely at times when you're very self aware because you expect other people to think and act like you do. But the reality is, it is rare to be self aware and to be highly conscious like that. So we often have to find ourselves in a place of giving people grace. When we change, it takes a long time for us to change, imagine, right? So we evolve faster than people can update their perception of us. And like I've mentioned, people are not that good at using their mental faculties to update their perception of you. People like to keep you in the old box of yourself because that's what's most comfortable for them. And it takes a lot of mental and energetic power to mentally update your perception of someone, especially the closer you are to them. We experience this with people we are in very close proximity to, like our significant others. That would be number one. Friends, even your parents, and other family members. Now, there's people who can go about this in a toxic way. For instance, if you are in a relationship with a toxic man, he will seek to sabotage you in ways that's beyond your imagination. Because men 90% of men, I'd say, deal with the abandonment wound, even healthy men. But it's worse when the man is toxic and not self aware and has not done much inner work in his manhood, right? So that he enters a healthy level of masculinity. A lot of men grew up without their fathers, and a lot of men grew up with mothers who were present but not emotionally present. So there's a lack of nurturing and containment there. A man seeks his validation and identity from other men. This is how men learn, and it serves as a rite of passage to elevate within their manhood. So, with the severe lack of fathers in men's lives growing up, it causes them to have this huge abandonment wound. And oftentimes they get into relationships with women and expect women to fill that gap, to fill that hole that they so deeply they so deeply have. For instance, let's say you've gotten a promotion at your job. A toxic man will try to sabotage your progress by maybe sending a fake email to your job stating that you've done unethical things in your past to not go ahead and give you that position because you're not fit for the job. There are men who I've heard when the woman has gotten a new car, for instance, and they go and do something to the car to prevent the car from working because the car symbolizes elevation in the woman's lives, and that car is a threat to the man. He feels that she may get her life together and leave him. Sounds ridiculous, but it's true. Men are very much in competition with anything that holds your attention or anything that elevates your confidence. I've seen men be with women who suffered from mental illnesses or like depression, and when the woman starts getting better, they make comments like, "Are you going to get better and leave me?" You may notice that you're losing weight, you're getting into the gym, you're changing the way you eat, and all of a sudden, now he's bringing fast food home every day of the week when normally you guys would have fast food maybe once, max twice a week. He's now making it his business to bring something unhealthy home. Or you may notice he start taking up the skill of baking, and this man has never baked anything in y'all's entire relationship. You'll notice even healthy men doing that, okay? I've seen online that there was a trend women were doing, and honestly, I didn't find it funny. To me, it's a form of abuse to constantly try to get a woman pregnant or to get a woman pregnant when she's at the pinnacle of some area of her life. So, women would show their progress of being in the gym, changing the way they eat, getting fine and fit and tight. And as soon as they hit that level of fitness, boom, they end up pregnant. Men are deathly afraid of you leaving them. If A lot of the time they can't handle, their ego can't handle seeing a woman's progression. And if you're in a relationship with a healthy man, he's more emotionally intelligent to understand that and to make the moves necessary. That way he is not getting in the way of your progress and becoming like a hindrance. A toxic man will lean into it and find ways to sabotage you in ways that is unimaginable. We may even find our parents doing this. A lot of people's parents try to sabotage them in subtle ways because that's mostly coming from a place of protection. Your parents want to protect you if you are blessed to have parents that care about you. So that's not something that I would take too serious. A lot of parents will try to instill fear within their children to prevent them from making a move that they don't see fit. Like if you come to them and say that you want to quit your job or whatever, they oftentimes will bring something up from your past. Well, you remember when back in the ninth grade, it was so hard for you to pass this subject. And if you couldn't pass that subject, then I don't think that you would excel as a business owner. I think that it's best that you stay in your corporate position. That's all coming from the fear of you losing your well being in the world. Your parents just want you to be well in the world. So I wouldn't take that so personally. But it's important to recognize when people around you are doing these things, because it's going to help you navigate the dynamic much better. When you are changing, evolving in your identity, it definitely feels like a threat to everyone around you because it serves as a mirror to them and it reminds them of what they're not. They also don't want you to abandon them. And this is something I want you to look into, right? Whenever you have a group of people around you and you all have similar beliefs and a similar culture, this is called a system or a pendulum, right? Now, the system is designed to protect itself. So if you are deciding to make a change, then the system goes into overdrive to try to get you back to the level that it's used to. So you are going to meet a lot of resistance. You're going to notice a lot of people making comments to you to try to get you back into your old version of yourself. And it's important for you to catch what's happening and to keep continually pushing against that resistance because it's not going to stop. It's very painful for people to feel that you're changing because it triggers in something in them that they're not going to be good enough for the to handle the new version of you. So when you change, it forces other people to reevaluate themselves, and not everyone wants to do that. Now, I've had a personal encounter with this a couple weeks ago with a longtime friend of mine. Now, this friend and myself have been friends for a very, very long time. This friend has seen me through the worst of times, and she's seen me through the best of times. So we were in the gym, and at the end of our workout, we were walking out of the gym into like the common area, and a lady walked by and gave me a compliment on my body. She said, "Wow, beautiful body." And then we stopped and had like a mini convo. She was joking, making some jokes with me and things of the sort. Now, my friend has always struggled with her weight, and that is the reason we decided to start going to the gym together so that I can be a source of encouragement for her and she can be a source of encouragement for me. So we're both benefiting from doing this, right? And as soon as the lady walked up, I did notice an energy shift in us. Like she became kind of quiet and a bit more reserved. And I didn't make think too much of it. Like I'm very self-aware, like I've mentioned, and I'm very compassionate and empathetic and all of the things. So I understand how to navigate when the dynamic shifts like that. I kind of figured what was happening. So I tried, striking up conversation, lightening up the mood, not taking offense to anything. And as we were leaving, she had forgotten something in the locker room. And I told her, well, when she goes back there, can you bring my gym bag? And she said, cool. So she went back, came back with the gym bag. And when she handed the gym bag to me, she said, where did you get that gym bag from? And I told her where I got it from or whatever. And then the next comment she made was, oh, you must have got a good deal on it. And when she said it, she laughed and looked the next way because she knew in that moment that that was an offensive comment. And to give you a little backstory as to why she said this, right? She, like I've said, seen me through the worst of times. Now, I'm a person who comes from poverty. I don't come from a family of means. I literally had to raise myself and I had to make a way for myself in life. I had a very tough life. When you're living in survival mode like that, you tend to be more frugal than is probably healthy, right? And I had a huge problem with money, and I was deeply in a scarcity mindset because I was afraid of maybe ending up homeless or ending up in a compromised position because of a lack of funds. So I used to have a really big problem with spending money and being cheap and all of those things. And she knew that about me. But she's also seen me go through a huge transformation to the woman that I am today. I am a successful businesswoman today. I have way more money than I've ever could imagine in life, right? And I make great money a month through my businesses and I buy really nice things now. I don't have that problem of spending. I've gone through a lot of inner work to evolve that part of my identity to not continuously be living in survival mode, right? I've gone to therapy, I've done hypnosis for extreme subconscious mind reprogramming. I've done it all, okay? Now, she was feeling triggered in a moment and saw that there was lightness to me. Some part of her felt triggered when the lady gave me a compliment. This is what I'm assuming happened. And instead of reveling with me in my lightness, she wanted to bring me down a peg to put me back in my place. I do that with air, quotation quotes or whatever, and made a comment like that to try to put me back into a frequency of shame. And people hide truth behind jokes because they know that if they can shame you with something from your past, then Shame is a very low frequency, and it's very effective to get someone to bring themselves down, right? So now you feel, or that person who made the offensive comment now feels much, much better. Now they don't have to be in your light. They can feel bigger than you again in that moment. Now, when she made that comment, and she turned her head, like I told you, and she looked back at me, I had the most stone cold face. Because one thing about it, I don't care how close we are, you're never above the program. Never forget that. You are going to respect who I am today. So I said, okay, it's interesting that you make a comment like that. Can you name a time recently where you notice I've done that or acted in that way? And she was shocked when I told her this, right? Because she thought I was going to laugh it off, and it's that serious to me. Okay, I'm very protective of the woman that I've become. I work hard. So she said, started stumbling over her words, and she didn't have anything to say. Basically, she was just quiet. So I said, okay, well, moving forward, do you mind not making comments like that anymore? I would really appreciate it. And it became very awkward between us. We, went our separate ways. And maybe our relationship is compromised now. But like I said, I'm totally fine with that because you're never above the program. And I believe that to continuously have healthy relationships, you need to be strict about your boundaries. I don't care how small it is. It's a big deal to me. I don't care how small the comment she made was. It's a big deal to me. Once someone has decided who you are, they don't just let that go. They start looking for little pieces of evidence to confirm that version of you still exists. So even something small, like a gym bag, gets filtered through that old identity. You could have grown in 10 different areas, and they'll still zoom in on the one thing that lets them say, see, she's still the same. Because the truth is, people don't like updating their perception of you. It takes effort, it takes a great amount of self awareness, and most people's brains would rather be consistent than accurate. So, me having one simple item like a gym bag registered in her mind that, see, she's still cheap, despite the many other things that I bought that she's now seen. So, offensive comments disguised as jokes are actually power plays and can function as microaggressions, status checks, subtle attempts to keep you in your place, okay, or your old box. It's a quiet way of them saying, I still see you as that version of yourself. Now, this concept is not even new. Scripture even supports this, right? It says in scripture that a person is not honored in his own hometown. The people who knew you before your transformation are often the ones who struggle the most to respect who you've become because they've attached to your past version. They watched you when you were still figuring it out, when you were trying to decipher between your left and your right foot, right? When you continuously were making poor decisions, okay, after poor decisions. It's hard for people to admit, especially ones who are in close proximity to you, that you've evolved, even potentially past them. It's very painful for people to see you change, especially if they were in a position where they feel that they were above you and all of a sudden you're starting to surpass them. You notice back when you were in a position that was under them, they were cheering you on, clapping loudly, because people clap for people they feel are not on their level. But as soon as you start surpassing them, all of a sudden the claps stop, the compliments stop, they get real quiet and start doing things like bringing up tiny things from your past in a joking form to put you back into the frequency of shame. They subconsciously will view you as your old self to make themselves feel better for their lack of progress. Now, there are three archetypes of people that will try to pull you back into your old identity. And we're going to go through them, starting with the first one. I call these people the unawares. This person isn't intentionally trying to offend you, okay? Like, the example I gave earlier about your parents, for instance, they're unconsciously doing things to sabotage you. That way, you don't put yourself into harm's way. These people are just operating from an outdated version of you, and they just haven't recalibrated their perception, even if you've provided a ton of evidence in your new identity that you're capable of doing the things that you can now do. This is why we hear people oftentimes say things like, yeah, I make $1 million in my business a month, and my parents are still asking me when I'm going back to college to finish getting my degree. So these people are not trying to disrespect you. They just haven't updated who you are in their mind because of their lazy thinking, too. Because, like I said, it takes a lot of mental faculties working together to update their perception of you. And people don't update their perception of you oftentimes unless they're forced to. And a perfect example of this is Jackie Aina. Jackie has gone through multiple phases of evolution, and she has forced her audience to respect that new version of her. The first incident we can think of, when she wanted everyone to stop calling her auntie, right? She didn't like it anymore. She didn't really even have to explain, even though she did explain why she didn't want to be called auntie. She really didn't have to. But at the end of the day, we have to understand that it doesn't matter what our boundary is. It's a boundary to us for a reason. It's a big deal to us for a reason. So if she no longer wants to be called auntie, then making comments like being called auntie is not a big deal. It's a cultural thing. She doesn't like it, and that's it, point blank, period. Stop calling her auntie. And she had to take drastic measures to help people understand that she was serious. Like, she was blocking people, she was calling people out, and people fell into line eventually. They pushed back because remember, the system is designed to protect itself. They were pushing back, pushing back, pushing back, and she was persistent in her new identity and stood on business. And then the second um, incident I can think of, when she got married to her longtime fiance, and she made no announcement of it. She just kind of popped up with a new last name and a ring, baby. That was it. No explaining, no nothing. And people also had an issue with that because they felt they were owed an explanation from her because they're longtime supporters. And she just simply did not feel the need to share a personal part of her life with her audience. And guess what? People made so many videos about this, and she still stood on business. She was perpetual in her new identity and her boundaries. And eventually, people fell into line. The second person I call the insecure comparator. Now, the insecure comparator is very emotional, right? This is a very emotionally unintelligent person, low consciousness level person. This person is very, very triggered by your own growth. And this can even be by our mothers. A lot of women have a tumultuous relationship with their moms because their moms are jealous of them. I know that's hard to fathom that a parent can be jealous of their child, but that's just human nature. Humans are humans before they're mothers, before they're any other title in our life. And a lot of the time, this can be with your mom. This could be with friends. This can be with your significant other, coworkers, your boss. You can experience this with a lot of different characters in life. So instead of rising to the level that you are now, they reposition you, okay? They anchor you to your past to stabilize themselves. They are constantly finding ways to sabotage and bring you down so that they can feel better about themselves. Because if you stay the same, they don't have to grow. So they remind you of who you were to avoid confronting who they are not. Now, the third type of person would be the subtle underminer. Now, the subtle underminer knows what they are doing. These people are very smart, oftentimes, and strategic. Okay. The difference between this archetype and the insecure comparator, both of these archetypes are operating from deep insecurity. But the subtle underminer is calculated, like I've mentioned, and intentional, versus the insecure comparator, who is more emotional in nature. This person more than likely has studied you. They are close to you sometime. They know a lot of things about your past, not so fond of things that you want to bring up in conversation when you're among people, right? They likely have an understanding of power dynamics as well as social dynamics. So they are very intelligent too sometimes, and they tend to use jokes as socially acceptable disrespect because they know that in when you're running in certain circles, there's a certain level of etiquette and decorum that's expected. They like to embarrass you in front of a crowd because it's going to shape people's other perception of you, which is their goal. This is what they want to do. They want to people to shape their perception of you. Regardless if it's things from your past, people still will judge you even if you're not that person anymore. That's why I advocate for not telling all of your business to about your past to people. There's a lot of things you can omit and just keep between you and God. That's why God says, cast your worries upon the Lord. All right? People will use things you tell them against you. So this person could have been somebody that you probably once have trusted and know intimate things about you that they know is embarrassing to you, but they try to find strategic ways to display it in joke form, especially when you're in like social settings. So if you're in a group, for instance, this person will wait until you're in a group of people. It could be you hanging out with a ton of friends even, or at like a work setting or business setting or anything like that, family gathering, while your kids are around, or just when you're in a group of people, right? And then they would make a joke of an embarrassing moment from your past. And they revel in seeing other people laughing about it because that's what they want. They're trying to put you in the frequency of shame so that the power dynamic is in their favor. Okay? They want you to be seen as less than. Now, a good way to deal with people like this is you have to cast some sort of embarrassment on them. Okay, you have to show, but you can't be reactive and emotional. Like this person is strategic, they know what they're doing. So you can't show a lot of emotion. Now, after the first or second time of them making an offensive comment in a group setting, you need to call it out, right? You need to say something like either repeat what they said and ask what they mean by that, or just say something like, oh, I didn't find that funny. And of course, they're going to start explaining themselves in front of the group, right? Because now they're being called out in front of everyone. So, as they're explaining, mid explanation, you need to take your attention off of them and start interacting with a person next to you. Or if there's not a person next to you, you need to remove yourself from the group setting slightly and go do something else. Just occupy yourself with something else, because this is going to subconsciously communicate to them that their expression or whatever they're explaining is not even worth your attention. This is going to put their ego down to the bottom of your feet. They're not going to know what to do when they're in that state. Then you'll notice that they'll try to come and find you and scope you out to maybe apologize. And then you still don't give them much attention. You say things like, okay, yeah, I hear you. You have to be really short because you have to teach people how to treat you. Okay, these are things you have to do to force people to get in formation. All right, you're not playing games like that. Don't think that you could ever embarrass me in social settings. So, this is how you shift the power dynamic back in your favor. Now, this video would not be one of my videos if I did not keep it real with you, right? Now, there's some part of you, for most women, there's some part of them that feels deeply triggered when comments are made towards them, right? It's not just about what they said, it reveals a fact that you're not fully detached from who you used to be yet. Because we can't be triggered by things we know for a fact aren't true. Okay, have you ever been told something by someone and you literally had no reaction because you knew that it was not true? So some part of you still believes that there's truth to what that person is saying. And honestly, This is a good thing. Triggers are good because it exposes that there's a part of your wound that's still not healed, and you need to go in and continuously clean it, work with it, get to baseline so that way triggering comments don't affect you anymore. That's going to be you taking your power back. The more you heal your triggers, the more power you have because people cannot control you when you're in control of your triggers. So, how do you handle this, right? How do you handle when people bring up your past, especially in a joking manner? They make rude comments. What do you say? What do you do? How would a dark feminine woman handle things like this? So, here's some options for you, okay? Option one, the reality check. If you are dealing with a repeat offender and need to send a verbal boundary, this is how you're going to go about it. You have to do this immediately, okay, after they make the offending comment, because that's when this strategy is most effective. It's the perfect segue into setting a verbal boundary. So, as soon as the person makes the offending comment, ask, "Can you name a specific time recently you've seen me do that?" They most likely will not have an answer because remember, if you are really not that person anymore, then more than likely you have not engaged in the habit or behavior they're referring to for a very long time. Now, after they're done stumbling over their words or taking a long time to respond, then you say, "Right. Well, I would appreciate if you stop making comments like that moving forward, please." That's it. Don't over explain, don't complain, or be overly emotional because then you'll kill it. Okay, you'll kill the power dynamic. Now, if they do happen to come up with an answer, then you say, "Right, well, I don't resonate with that person anymore, and I would appreciate if you stop making comments like that moving forward, please." That's it. Now, the second option is to have unbothered energy, right? You need to have a great amount of unbothered energy for this option to work. So when they make an offensive comment, you need to be stone cold in the face and go silent. You need to shift your attention, check your phone, look away. You need to change the energy completely because what you're doing in that moment is refusing to engage with the frame they just tried to put you in. And if this is someone who does this repeatedly, you don't argue, you don't explain, you simply remove your presence. You cut the interaction short and you simply say, "I actually have to go." No explanation, no justification. Now, if that feels too intense, okay, because to become unbothered sometimes happens in layers, right? For some of us. So if that's too intense, just simply stop engaging, right? Don't engage with the comment at all. Give them a slight smile and immediately change the subject because the less energy you give it, the less power it has. So you don't correct disrespect, you remove access to yourself. Now, option three is the call out. Okay, this is probably a little more aggressive. If you feel like it's intentional, this is where you apply pressure. Okay, you're going to ask questions like this: "What makes you say that? What do you mean by that? That's interesting. I haven't done that in a long time. Is that how you still see me?" I like that last one because it makes people self aware instantly. Asking these questions will make them have to explain the implication instead of hiding behind the joke. When you ask the right question, people either correct themselves or expose themselves. You don't defend your evolution, you embody it. The more detached you are, the more effective these strategies are. These tactics will force people to update their perception of you because your energy now says you are no longer available for nonsense. Either you get with it or get behind me. Because remember, in order for someone to pull you down, they need to be beneath you first. At the end of the day, you have to understand that not everyone is going to update their perception of you just because you've changed. Some people are always going to speak to who you used to be because That's the version of you they were most comfortable with. That's the version of you that didn't challenge them, didn't outgrow them, didn't force them to look at themselves differently. And that's okay, because your job is not to convince people that you've evolved. Your job is to embody it so fully that eventually it becomes undeniable. And the people who still choose not to see it, they are not confused. They are committed to a version of you that no longer exists. And pay attention to the people who can't let go of your past. Those are usually the people who benefited from the older version of you the most and can potentially take dangerous actions, okay, to sabotage your progress. So you need to keep a super close eye on people like this. So, what I want to know now is, what's one version of yourself that people keep trying to bring up that you've already outgrown? Let's talk about it in the comments.